Phone booth fighting is back. I'm Richard Hunter. There's Frank Mir right over there with Thule on his lap. And we're going to have a relatively short episode today because Frank is maintaining a Herculean training regimen. Frank, what's gotten into you lately? You act like you're a professional fighter or something. What's happening over there?
I guess some guys go out and buy a Corvette when they get in their 40s. I just been training like crazy. Yeah, just multiple training times a day. So just trying to spread it out because I am older, so it's harder to just go from one training session to the next. So I train, eat, nap, train, eat, nap, and then try to keep repeating that process throughout the whole day. Possibly have a fight. Hopefully, supposedly Malky's sending me a contract here shortly, April 17th, and it'll be hopefully a cool announcement once I know it's official.
Is this, I don't know if you can tip your hand or not. Does this have something to do with bare knuckle or otherwise?
A little bit, but it could actually even be a little bit crazier. So you'll be shocked when I tell you.
Okay, what did they letting you use weapons or what? What could be crazier than that? All right.
Stay tuned. It'll be nuts.
Okay, all right. Well, you'll hear it first here on Phone Booth Fighting. That's the promise we'll make our Phone Booth Fighting listeners. All right, Frank. So actually, I thought we'd talk a little Bellator because Bellator is making some news. First of all, they announced that going forth, actually starting April 2nd, that's going to be their Bellator 255 event headlined by a featherweight title fight between Patricio Pitbull and Emmanuel Sanchez. They are now going to Showtime. Showtime is going to be their exclusive broadcasting partner. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. I'll let you go first, and then I'll tell you what I think.
I'm thinking good for them because, I've been hearing what everybody else has been hearing for the last year, that they've been struggling, after leaving their last network, that things weren't looking good. There's a reason why the contract wasn't renewed as far as viewership. And so, obviously, the more organizations are out there, the better it is for fighters. So I'm always pro competition. So, I wasn't happy to hear that they haven't been doing solid. So the fact that, the Showtime move, hopefully that'll, it's a move in the right direction for popularity for them.
Yeah, I think it's a good move. I was so all right. Here's kind of my overall view of MMA and broadcasting platforms. It's always confusing when you've got to try to figure out, is this on one of 4 possibilities of a network if it's not on pay-per-view? The UFC's been in that spot before where, okay, big cards are on pay-per-view, go to Versus for this fight, but then sometimes it's going to be on FX over here, all that sort of thing. It's definitely helpful when with the UFC, in their case, you can either go, okay, it's either pay-per-view or it's on an ESPN property. So that's helpful. And I've always thought that Bellator needed something like that as well. They don't do the pay-per-views necessarily, but I thought the DAZN thing was very confusing. I never really understood, because there would be times where, okay, sometimes the fight's going to be on DAZN, which is a $20 a month subscription, which is a high dollar subscription compared to $5 for, Fight Pass, or $10 for Fight Pass, or $5 for ESPN Plus. But sometimes it's going to be on the Paramount Network, but then sometimes it'll be on both. That was always very confusing. And Paramount Network, CBS Sports Network, those are those networks that you kind of have to pay attention to what your cable package is. And sometimes you'd be like, okay, let me make sure I get the right tier, so that, because say Paramount Network, for example, doesn't come as part of the regular package. So I think with Showtime, you're looking at a $10, $11 a month subscription, and it's a good network. It's something that you get not just for MMA. I would have had it anyway for the original programming that I like on there, plus boxing. They're the boxing leader now. HBO's gotten out of the boxing business. So I would say that even if this had been a few years ago, where it was before HBO got out of the boxing business, before Showtime kind of had cornered that market on big time boxing, that maybe it would even be a little more tenuous. But I think the fact that that's already the home for top level boxing that's not on pay-per-view. This just makes a lot of sense for them. So this could be the right infusion just when they need it.
No, I told you my thoughts. So
yeah,
well,
what do you
just the better?
Yeah, what do you think about some of the signings they've made? Now they've also got plans for a light heavyweight tournament, 205. You look at some of the signings that they've made. Anthony Rumble Johnson, Yoel Romero over there. Of course, they've already got Ryan Bader.
So
Enough.
Oh no, actually, you're right. No, my brain was like when you said Rumble Johnson. I'm like, wait a minute, no, I was thinking of Phil.
Oh, Phil Davis. Yeah. But they've got enough Vadim Nemkov over there. Yeah, they're light heavyweight champion. So they've got enough to do, that 205 tournament. And I kind of like the idea that because that can be their thing. I like that UFC doesn't do tournaments. Bellator should own that, brand it, make that their thing. It's got a little bit of a throwback feel to it. What do you think?
100%. I think that them putting up quality guys inside the tournaments make it interesting, and it's their niche. I mean, you're just not going to beat the UFC at what the UFC does. Putting on, look, every guy in the gym that I train with, all the young guys coming up, they aspire to be a UFC fighter. So, they're still the pinnacle, the gold medal of our sport. They're the Olympics. Everybody wants to be an Olympic champion. Being a Pan American champion is cool, but there's not a lot of little kids that their aspiration is to be the Pan American champion in wrestling over being an Olympic champion. Even a world champion doesn't mean as much to people as the Olympics does. And that's what the UFC really is. It's the Olympic championship of MMA. But Bellator's, so I think trying to beat guys or trying to be another UFC, just look, they got the market cornered. And until they do something to shoot themselves in the foot, I don't see it going away anytime soon. But Bellator putting on the tournaments, I think, is novel. And I think they have to somehow bring something else to the table to say, hey, you go to the UFC for your one-on-one matches, but we have the tournament, we have the drama of that and the intrigue, and I think that's what the PFL's done. That's done a good job to help pull them up, is they also do multiple tournaments. So I think that's a much easier way to bring something, to it than just trying to go one-on-one with the same material that the UFC has. It just isn't going to work. It hasn't worked.
You know what it is? It's a way to get yourself out of the losing proposition of a conversation of which promotion has the deeper pool or the better talent, because that's not really a debate. The UFC gets to be the top dog, but the conversation changes from not who's better, but what are you doing, Bellator, that's different? What do you show me that the UFC doesn't? And now they've got a clear answer for that. So yeah, I think that's a good call. And it's also, these are lean times, and these are times when people have to really give thought to, am I going to buy this UFC pay-per-view this month, or am I going to skip it this month, or what have you? And I think it's going to be nice for a lot of MMA consumers to know that for $10 a month, $11 a month, whatever it works out to be, they're going to have Bellator over there. Guys, get your thoughts on some recent MMA activity. I don't know what you've had a chance to see the last few weeks, but a couple of pretty devastating knockouts from this past weekend. First of all, Alexander Volkov definitely accelerated his own hopes of a UFC heavyweight title shot and extinguished the hopes of a late in his career run at the title on the part of Alistair Overeem. So this was, Alistair Overeem just looked like he didn't have it the other night in the cage. Volkov, of course, no joke. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. But it was a good referee stoppage, I thought, just because it was one of those stoppages to me where, even though Overeem may have been able to get up from that and take one or two more punches, I felt like he wasn't really going to be in complete control of himself and maybe able to defend himself, and really could have caused a lot of damage. I thought it was a good stoppage, but I don't know what you got a chance to see, but your thoughts on, Alistair Overeem just having one of those nights where he probably looked his age, you know?
Well, I think also too, just stylistically and structurally, I think this was a hard fight for him. You know, because Alistair obviously is a K1 champ. He's a good striker. But what makes Alistair, I think, formidable is offensively, it's his knees. You know, he obviously has good hands, but I don't think that's what puts him into that, you know, special echelons where he's dangerous. You know, I fought him, and the thing we're most worried about training against him is the knees. He has plenty of guys he's damaged through the body and to the head with his knee attack. So that being said, when I saw the matchup with Volkov, I always thought, I was like, this is a bad fight for Alistair because of the height difference. I don't think his knees are going to be able to become a factor. So it's going to be a pure just punching and kick match with Volkov. And then Alistair has gotten better, obviously, over the years with his takedown, has great ground and pound from top. But Volkov knows everybody wants to take him down, and he doesn't want to, you know, take you down. So he just concentrates on blocking the shot, you know, anti-wrestling. So I felt that on paper, this was not an easy fight for him. In fact, it was this was a fight, I think, to help. When the matchmakers got together, they were doing this for Volkov. This wasn't a fight for Overeem.
Do you think a promotion, some outlaw regional promotion, do you think a promotion has ever had the wild idea, hey, you know what? Just because fights always start on the feet, there's nothing legally that says they have to. We're going to be the promotion that goes in reverse. We're going to start on the ground and see who can get to their feet the fastest.
Oh, man, that might be a novel idea to be like, hey, round 2, we start in the clinch, you know, then round 3, whoever's down on the scorecards, you know, or who's up on scorecards gets to pick position, whether it's in the guard or in the clinch, you know, like that'd be an interesting, or neutral, you know, something to that, you know, to that fact, you know.
Yes, for
game to open that conversation, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I should have suggested this before my 2 fights.
Well, I mean, think about, like, you know, a lot of the Eddie Bravo type EBF.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know, once it goes past overtime, they pick positions. So, you know, I'm not opposed to trying to shake things up to make it more interesting. You know, hey, round 1, obviously, let's start neutral, but then, you know, rounds 2 and 3, maybe, you know, mix it up to, you know, to really see how well-rounded guys are.
I don't know what made me think of that just now. What about the co-main event? Did you see that flying knee knockout, Frankie Edgar, Corey Sandhagen, with just, I mean, a highlight for the ages, the second fastest flying knee knockout in the history of the UFC. Of course, the first one was when Jorge Masvidal took out why am I drawing such a blank? When Jorge Masvidal took out
Ben Askren.
I don't know why I couldn't come up with the name Ben Askren for a second. Good gosh. Anyway,
Sheray's 2 fights.
Boy, no kidding. All right, no kidding. But that was a tough one to see. I mean, a great win for Sandhagen, but I mean, to just see him go out cold like that, the curled toes and the locked up legs and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a big fan of Frankie Edgar, and I think a lot of people are. He's a warrior. You know, the guy's technical, but he's always been undersized and always, you know, been always kind of an overachiever, you know, as far as, you know, especially not until they instituted the featherweight class. You know, he was always the smallest. You know, the guy never cut weight to make lightweight and worked his way all the way up to the top, to be champ, you know. So that being said, you know, it's kind of, you know, I don't like to see Edgar lose. And then, you know, getting caught like that sucks. I know how that feels, you know, a lot of fighters do. You go out there and you train so hard for weeks, months at a time, and the fight doesn't get past the first minute. You're like, damn, I got caught with a shot. And, you know, and there's no taking it back. And, you know, there's no next Sunday. Now you got to wait 4 or 5 months before you have redemption.
Is there a danger to those? I mean, you've never had anything like that happen to you that I can think of, right? I mean, you've never.
So far, every time I've been caught, I mean, I've lost my footing and been, you know, out of it, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not complaining about stoppages or anything, but so far I haven't, you know, been on my back, waking up, looking at everybody and like, what happened. So, you know, hey, you know, knock on wood, I guess. But
do you?
I've made it unscathed in that scenario.
Yeah, from what you know, is there any before you've maybe been told by medical professionals? I don't know, but is there any more of a danger to that sort of thing happening where it's one of these? Well, let's hope they wake up here in a second, as opposed to the, okay, they were out of it, eyes were open, didn't know exactly where they were. We stopped the fight. I don't know.
What I was told by my friend that was a neurologist, that is a neurologist, he explained to me that what you don't want to happen, he goes, that's a bad, bad sign of a brain injury, is when you see the guys get hit, they fall down and they go into like a convulsion. Their arms and legs go straight and they're kind of biting down on their mouthpiece and they're
Yeah,
kind of like an oversock. He explained it to me at the time. I don't remember the details. I'll give him a call and brush up on it so maybe I can explain
yeah,
to users or viewers a little better. But I was told that being knocked out for a few minutes or having that happen, that's the least preferable and more scary to a medical professional watching. Trying to think, the old was it Matua or the guy that got knocked out by Tank Abbott, going back to like UFC, whatever
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
digits, or when even Roy Jones got caught by, I think it was Glenn Johnson, and
mm-hmm,
he hit the ground, and that flexion where they're kind of they're out, but their body's like in a contortion, or
mm-hmm,
they're flexing it really hard. So that was explained to me that you never want that to happen.
mm-hmm.
That's way more dangerous than somebody being asleep for a few minutes.
Yeah, yeah. Now, we also haven't had a chance to talk about this because it's been a few weeks. Your thoughts on Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier? I thought Dustin, he had that takedown in the first round. I actually thought Conor won the first round, but Dustin was still looking good in the first with the takedown, and then the second where he was able to get him back up against the cage and then finish him the way that he did. A real testament to, I think, the type of fighter that Dustin Poirier has evolved into, even back as far as the first time that he fought Conor McGregor. Didn't necessarily go the way I thought it was going to. What do you think?
Well, I thought that if he got out there early, I thought that Conor's hand power, precision, if you said, hey, the fight ended in the first round, I was going to say it was Conor that won.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If you told me, hey, it made it to the fourth round, it was a TKO, I'm like, oh, Poirier won.
Mm-hmm.
Poirier, I think so. I'm very happy for him. Just because you do everything right and train hard, put in the work, doesn't mean it comes your way. Sometimes luck just doesn't shine on you. And so, in Poirier's scenario, the guy's a hard worker. It isn't like he has any one attribute like a Conor, who's extremely explosive, great speed and power. Where it's like, all right, well, there's a certain amount of that what he was born with, and he cultivated it through hard training. Poirier really doesn't have anything that I look at and go, wow, this guy's stronger, faster, endurance, mobility, agility, whatever the case may be, better than the average person he was born with. I think the guy was born very average, and he has really trained hard and become mentally tough and built himself into being, what I feel is the uncrowned champion right now at their weight class.
You get a phone call coming in? Okay,
so
now you're back.
Calling in.
Yeah,
Hopefully
go ahead.
they try to keep calling.
Go ahead.
And so, so that being said, I'm very happy for Poirier. He's a great role model and example to young guys and girls growing up going, hey, just because you might not be number one in the gym now doesn't mean that through hard work you can't accomplish a lot. And I think on Conor's part, it just showed that, hey, if you're not active all the time, the game evolves. And here, the calf kicks and stuff, he didn't really even have an answer for it at any point during the fight. It seemed like that was the first time he'd ever seen it. So obviously Conor, look, the guy trains hard, I'm sure, but he's not exposing himself to different elements of the world, because he's the big man, the big fish. And I think that's what really showed a guy who doesn't train with a lot of different people to see different things. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to add that into your game, but if you're sparring a large amount of different individuals all the time, you get used to seeing things that are new and how to break them apart. And you kind of get an idea of what's being done. The calf kick is something that's really been picking up in MMA in the last 2 or 3 years. And for Conor not to have picked up on that, not knowing how to just even switch stance, move his foot out of the way. I know, Poirier talked about turning your shin into it. I think it's easier just to pick your foot up off the mat or move it out of the way. But I've also That's my way of dealing with it because I've dealt with it in the gym enough times and I've seen it. You know, especially you train in a gym where there's 40 pros and everybody's round robining rounds. You see a lot of different looks, and you have to learn how to make adjustments on the fly. The other thing too that I really seen, and I've always been suspicious, and I'm not trying to talk shit. I'm really not. I'm just pointing out a flaw I see in Conor. Conor's a front runner. You know, as long as he's doing well, he's a monster. You know, and also, he is psychologically, savvy because he scares the shit out of guys, not only because of what he's capable of doing in the cage, but through his, bravado and through his antics. I mean, hell, Jose Aldo, who I thought was going to destroy him, that guy, they're lucky that he didn't leave out the back room after they wrapped his hands. He was terrified of Conor. He was scared shitless, you know what I mean? And I was shocked. I'd never seen that before. So all credit to Conor to do that to somebody. But in situations where Conor starts to have a rough fight, he doesn't know how to fight out of a hole. I started seeing that in his first loss against Nate Diaz, where Nate started, surviving the hand attack, fighting back, and then Conor shoots a shot. Just, I'm like, why are you going to take someone down? You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Almost kind of like inviting the mentality of, I'd rather you choke me than knock me out, and so, and then, the fight with Khabib, when Khabib took his back, all of a sudden, like some of the submissions he's been in, it's like, that was a really fast tap, man. Was that really, were you really on the verge of going to sleep, or you were just like, screw this, I'm done? And now I kind of push more towards, screw this, I'm done. Even the shot when Poirier, was beating up his leg, the last hook to the chin that he got caught with, that wasn't a tremendous, powerful blow. It was kind of the finishing touch to a guy who didn't want to be there anymore because he was tired of getting kicked in the leg, And I think that was enough for him to go ahead and call it. And so I think the Conor's going to have to improve in his repertoire. And it's not unfixable. It's just you have to know how to first be honest with yourself. Hey, you know what? When things get rough, I look for the door. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not an uncommon thing for such a talented athlete and guy as Conor, because he's, the guy is super fast, powerful, talented, technical, has all these things going for him. So more often than not, Conor probably wins every sparring match in his gym. So it's hard for guys like that to learn, well, hey, when shit's not going my way, how do I refocus and reestablish and find a way maybe to get back in this? And that's something I think I need to see more of Conor is, get back into this, like, okay, fight's not going your way, find a way to win, have that look about you that you're going to try to make something happen. You're going to readjust. You're going to dig deep, and right now I think that all the other lightweights and featherweights, whichever Conor decides, if he decides to go back down, I think they see that, I mean? I think that they've seen a guy that like, oh, well, if you survive, and Conor can't put you away, he panics.
Yeah, one takeaway I had, and I think you touched on this a minute ago, is that I think something Conor needs to reassess at this point and change is I think he's got to decide, okay, now I'm back, I'm all in back on MMA. I'm not going to be thinking about boxing Manny Pacquiao. You know what I mean? Like you just talked about the things that he's not being exposed to training MMA all the time. I just think he has to make a decision that, okay, I'm still top box office draw. I'm still a top contender, et cetera, et cetera. But this was a warning to me that this is not the point in time where I need to be diversifying into other contests and promotions and disciplines and things like that. I need to focus on where I'm at with MMA right now, at least for, the however many more years I'm going to be fighting.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think that, he had enough time that he could have been training MMA this whole time, since his last fight with Donald. Because there is a lot of carryovers between boxing, MMA, kickboxing, no-gi grappling. I think that you can use them, but then when it comes 3 months out from your fight, you got to get sharp. You got to go, okay, I'm going to focus on this one skill set. And I think even more, and you touch on this yourself, I don't know if it's completely just what's in the gym. I think that sometimes, Conor, because he is larger than life, he's spread pretty thin. And that could also be a problem. He's not a guy who's solely focused on just walking into an octagon and winning fights. He's a promoter. He has his own liquor. He has his own stable of guys. You know, the guys, you know, he's definitely diversified his business sense. But at the same time, you know, at what cost? Can he still be one of the best in the world? Yeah, definitely. I mean, the guy's that kind of talent. But is he going to be the best day in and day out at this time? I mean, that's a lot to ask of somebody like a Poirier, who is pretty focused just on one task. You know, even, you know, Khabib, you know, when Khabib is fighting MMA, he's pretty focused. You know, I mean, that's his thing. He's not worried about promoting the fight. He's not trying to go around and promote any kind of other side, you know, ventures he has. I'm going to walk in the gym, train all day long, and go home and spend time with my family.
Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done that already, the Phone Booth Fighting YouTube channel. You can follow Frank on Twitter and Instagram at @TheFrankMeir. I'm at Richard Hunter on those platforms as well. Frank, you and I are going to jump over to our Patreon page real quick, do some premium content over there for our subscribers. If you haven't checked it out yet, please do. It's patreon.com/Phone Booth Fighting. We'll see our premium subscribers over there, and we'll be back very soon for another episode of Phone Booth Fighting.